Welcome to Navigating Advocacy, the true crime podcast that goes beyond storytelling to ignite change and seek justice. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Whitney. As true crime enthusiasts turned passionate advocates, we've seen the power of storytelling raise awareness about unsolved crimes and bring hope to victims and their families. We hope to inspire action and promote positive change within the true crime community.
Our mission is simple. We provide a platform for victims and their families to share their stories, to be heard, and find solidarity. But we don't stop there. We offer practical guidance to our listeners on how they can actively make a difference in their own communities.
Together, we can create a wave of change. We're here to empower you to also become advocates for change, no matter where or who you are. We are Navigating Advocacy.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And here comes February.
Yes, and it is a leap year this year, which is so exciting. My son Levi thinks it's absolutely insane that it's a leap year. And I'm like, well, it happens every 4 years. It's not that exciting. But
This is not your first one or your last one.
exactly. But it's a little bit different. A little bit
It
different.
is. I'm probably going to forget that come February. And I'm going to be like, why is today the 29th? And then I'm going to
Yes.
think that there's going to be the 30th. And then I'm going to my dates will be all messed up. I know it. It's just going to happen.
It is. Most likely that will happen, but it's a nice change of pace having an extra day in there for absolutely random reasons that I don't know about.
February is one of my favorite months, though, because it is my oldest birthday month. He's going to be 11, and I cannot believe
Ah,
it. It's
so
like
big.
11, and then he's going to be an adult. It's just like next week he's going to be an adult, and that's just how it happens. It goes that fast, guys.
It freaking does. It really does.
Also in February is Valentine's Day, which I'm not a big romantic. Melissa isn't a big
No.
romantic. We like chocolate. If you want to get it for us, we're there for that. But we don't expect any big grand gestures.
And it doesn't even have to be heart-shaped. I will take
Nope.
any type of chocolate.
If it has sea salt and caramel in it, bonus points.
Yes, yes. But yeah, definitely not big on the Valentine's Day holiday, but it's nice. I still decorate my house a little bit, pull down those decor, spruce up the reds and pinks around. But other than that, it's just another day.
Yep, same. We are going to do a Valentine's Day sale on our website. So if your loved one likes our podcast, this is a good gift idea for you. If you're struggling in that department on what you should get your loved one, we'll have a Valentine's Day sale.
And get yourself something good. Also, this coming weekend, Whitney and I will be traveling for our first action-oriented advocacy case of the year. We are traveling to Arkansas. That's all I'm giving you, but look for our social media. I'm sure we will have posts of what we're up to, the adventures we get into when we get together in random cities.
Yep. Also, this one's a little bit different because we will actually be in 3 different states this weekend. We're taking traveling to the extreme on this trip. On Saturday, we will be hosting a Honk and Wave event for National Missing Persons Day. We also have a Facebook event dedicated to it. Check it out. I'll link it in the show notes if you want to come help us bring some awareness to some missing persons cases.
Yes, we look forward to seeing you all there and helping any way we possibly can.
Yep. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our Iowa case.
Eek, I am excited.
As I was researching this case, it just happened to fall on the same week as Rosie Tapia's birthday. I'm not sure if it was the fact that it was her birthday during the week or if the similarities between Rosie's story and this one caused my reflection. What's even more interesting is that Melissa stumbled upon a resource called the Rosie Tapia ID Project, or RTIP, this week as well. Through Intermountain Forensics, they are offering no cost DNA testing of human remains for the states of Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah to law enforcement. They provide free testing for one sample per unidentified person. You can purchase additional samples at the lab's regular nonprofit rate, which I can assure you is less than a private lab rate. They also include up to 40 hours of forensic investigative genetic genealogy through their FIG division. There's an easy application process, and I encourage you to go to their website, intermountainforensics.com, for more information. While Intermountain Forensics does not service Iowa, where we're navigating advocacy today, I could not help but share this information in the event it could help someone within their region. They do work with law enforcement, so if you do have an officer assigned to your case, they are likely the one that needs to contact the forensic team, but it is an idea you can provide your investigator.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I remember showing it to you, and then it literally went right out of my brain, and, it's such a good resource that we had no idea about it, and we had covered Rosie's case not too long ago, so the fact that there are organizations out here like this that are helping these family members is just amazing.
Yes, absolutely. I also am going to hold on to their information. I think it would be an important contact for us to have for advocacy conference.
Mhm. Agreed.
Hundreds of miles away in Sioux City, Iowa, and 40 years before Rosie's death, another tragedy occurred. It isn't often we share trigger warnings on our show, but this one warrants it. So if you struggle with children or gruesome deaths, this is not the episode for you. Donna Sue Davis was born to James, who went by Don, and Mary Beatrice Davis on September 19th, 1953. She had clear blue eyes and curly blonde hair. Donna had an older sister and an older brother. The family of five lived on the west side of Sioux City, Iowa, on Isabella Street. The neighborhood was exactly what you would expect from a typical Midwest town in Iowa. There were other kids in the neighborhood that rode their bikes in the street. Kids played outside without the fears that plague the world today. The neighborhood knew who the kids belonged to, and everyone kept an eye out for one another. It truly was, it takes a village mentality. Donna Sue was known as the darling of the neighborhood, and she was called Darling more than Donna Sue from her neighbors.
That's so cute. I love today's technological advances, but there's something about what you just described as like, I feel like homesick for it, even though I've never had it, if that makes sense. You're like, I want the simplicity, the the gathering, the social aspect of like all the neighbors congregating. Like that sounds amazing to me, but also
The
terrifying because I
nostalgia.
live. Yes, yes, exactly. But also terrified because we know it's not always safe and we're aware of so much more that goes on now. Yes, it went on then as well, but it wasn't publicized the way it is now. And so now it's
Mhm.
like your eyes are open and everyone is a suspect, which just it hurts my heart.
It truly does. I couldn't find specific statistics from 1955 in relation to crime, but what I did learn is that it was one of the warmest summers Iowa had seen in a while, as well as one of the wettest. On Saturday, July 9th, 1955, several inches of rain fell and caused flooding in many areas. In fact, the flood sirens even sounded in the overnight hours, and electricity was lost for many residents. Sunday morning, the rain stopped and water began running down into the river. Sioux City is a beautiful city of around 75,000 in 1955. I couldn't find the exact population number. Everywhere I looked skipped from 1940 to 1990, so this is very much a guesstimation.
That's still a good sized town, I think, for that time period.
Yeah, it sits out right along the Missouri River, and it really is beautiful photos out there of this little town. You can visit 3 different states without leaving the city limits of Sioux City. It sits in the northwestern edge of Iowa, right where South Dakota and Nebraska meet. It hosts many music festivals, including Saturday in the Park. and it has many museums and art centers. In the 1950s, central heat and air conditioning was not as commonplace as it is today. It wasn't until the late 1960s that new builds would have them installed. Individual room air conditioning was more common, but according to ScienceDirect.com, in 1955, fewer than 2% of US homes had the luxury of air conditioning. It was much more common to have an open or cracked window for the late summer breeze cooling your home at night.
I would take central heat and air over congregating with my neighbors any day.
Yes, that and indoor plumbing. That's always been I need a shower and
Yeah,
a toilet.
agreed.
This was the usual plan for the Davis family in their duplex on Isabella Street. The family of five lived in the downstairs duplex. 21-month-old Donna Sue shared the room with her parents. Her crib was placed against the wall near the foot of the bed. Next to it was placed a cedar chest below the bedroom window just to the left of the crib. Sunday, July 10th, 1955, the temperatures reached over 95 degrees in the heat of the day. That evening, Donna Sue's mother went through her typical bedtime routines. She gave her daughter a bath, dressed her in pink pajamas, and laid her down in her crib around 9:30 p.m. Even at less than 2 years old, Donna Sue would already have that girly girl personality about her. She was always carrying her teddy bear, a little rubber doll, and a bright red purse. At night, this was no different. Donna Sue needed her bear, her doll, and her purse all in the crib with her. I remember this stage of life with my kids as toddlers. When they have their favorite items and they're still learning how to communicate with you, they will sleep with the strangest items because it's their favorite at the time. We had Transformers and action figures and all kinds of things that would not be comfortable to sleep with in the boys' beds at that age. You just have to please them so that they will lay down.
Yes, my oldest loved Thomas the Train, and he would sleep with a wooden train every single night, and I'm like, "This is not comfortable. What if you roll over on it?" But it just appeases them, so we appease them.
Yes. Mary tucked Donna Sue in and noted that the window was open to allow that summer breeze in to help pull the temperatures that were still in the 80s down. The two other children were already in bed, so Mary heads to the kitchen to have a relaxing evening, catching up on the current events in the newspaper. She was having her, what I call me time, where someone's not needing you. You're finally getting a chance to just sit in the silence and do what you want to do instead of catering to others' needs. Dawn was watching television in the living room, and it was a typical Sunday evening in the Davis household. The neighborhood was quiet and seemingly calm. The Davises' upstairs neighbor was enjoying that nightly breeze on his balcony, and across the street, Mr. Berger was sitting in his backyard, also enjoying the evening. The way this is described in several articles is exactly what I picture of a neighborhood in the 50s. Around 9:35 p.m., Mr. Berger noticed a man cross over the hedges on the Davises' side of the duplex and walk down the side of the home. He couldn't really see what he was doing, but he was walking upright. A few minutes later, he sees the same man walking back the way he came, but stooped over, maybe carrying something. Another neighbor, Mr. Fieldos, who shares a property line with the Davises' back lot but lives around the corner and two houses down, heard his dog Rex barking. Miss Fieldos heads to the back door and flips on her outdoor light to let their dog inside, and she notices a man who appears to be carrying something in his arms. This was cause for concern, and Miss Fieldos alerts her husband. He grabbed a flashlight and headed out to see who was near the back of their property. When Mr. Fieldos points the light towards the man, he stoops behind a bush. Mr. Fieldos was already on edge when it came to vandals, as a couple of weeks before, their dog alerted them to someone trying to break into their car. Mr. Fieldos asked his wife to keep the light on the stranger while he called police. This potential vandal was wearing a white t-shirt and khaki trousers. At 9:37 p.m., the Sioux City police are alerted to this suspicious man cornered in Mr. Fieldos' property, and they dispatch an officer. Before they get there, the suspicious person runs away. Mr. Fieldos chased him, and he remembered that he was running strangely and kind of hunched over the bundle that was in his arms. It appeared to be something wrapped in a blanket. Mr. Fieldos loses the man in between some bushes 1 block down from the Davises' home on Isabella Street. He then returns back to his home to wait for law enforcement to arrive. At 9:40 p.m., just 10 minutes after having laid her down for the evening, Don got up to check on his youngest daughter. When he went into the room, he did not see her, but thought she may be under her blanket. It was dark in the room, so I understand the confusion. He called out to his wife, asking where Donna Sue was, and before she could answer, he noticed the screen was missing from the window. He immediately ran to the phone to call the police, and as they were unaware of the encounter their neighbor had, it wasn't long before police arrived because they were already en route to the neighborhood. Mr. Fieldos was standing in front of his home waiting for law enforcement to arrive to give his statement about the prowler he had just seen when he heard Mary start screaming from inside her home that her baby was missing. I know I already said this, but this truly is what I would imagine happens in many neighborhoods, especially in the 50s. The sense of community was much stronger then than it is now, so several neighbors heard Mary's screams and came out to help. Statements were given from Mr. Berger about the strange person he saw skulking around the house just a few minutes earlier. Mr. Fieldos recounted his chase, and the upstairs neighbors said that they didn't see anything unusual, so they weren't of much help. Over 25 neighbors participate in an immediate foot search of the vacant fields and houses in the area. Don gets in his car and begins searching as well. Remember the rain from before, he ends up getting stuck in a ditch and having a friend come help him. For 1955, the timeline of this event seems that law enforcement were really on top of their game when it came down to the immediate response. Volunteers, law enforcement alike, were really coming together to find this little girl. The immediate leads they had seemed promising. They had a description of the potential perpetrator, they had a tight timeline of when the abduction occurred, and they had hands to help. Around 11 p.m., Sioux City police received a call from a man who heard the report on the radio while driving in South Sioux City, Nebraska. Remember, I said you can get to 3 different states in this same city. He tells them that when he was driving through the nearby town of Elk Point, South Dakota, around 10 o'clock that evening, he saw a man at a motel in a white t-shirt and khaki trousers standing beside a black Chevrolet 2-door sedan holding a baby in his arms. At that time, the caller had no knowledge of what had happened in Sioux City, but he could remember the license plate number. Sioux City Police recruits the help of the Elk Point Police Department to check out this motel. The man and car were long gone by the time local authorities arrived. Evidence at the Davis home was collected, including the window screen and fingerprints off of the cedar chest, in hopes to gain a match with someone. The abductor would have had to crawl in through the window to grab Donna Sue and then back out of the window due to the crib not being close enough to the window to just reach inside and take the child out. Investigations and searches continued through the night without any new leads. The following morning, 3 FBI officers from the Omaha field office came in as consultants as they couldn't come on in official capacity. There was no ransom requests or proof that the abductor had indeed crossed state lines, so they couldn't officially join the search. They were just there to assist. The Air National Guardsmen and extra police, dozens of more volunteers, all showed up by Monday afternoon. Still no new leads. Around 3:45 p.m., Mr. Olerking, a farmer across the river in South Sioux City, Nebraska, was driving his tractor north of his farm when he noticed something in the ditch. When he went to get a closer look, he noticed it was the bottom half of a baby's pink pajama set and a pair of rubber pants. It was described as the kind normally worn over a baby's diaper. In the 50s, they didn't have disposable diapers like we have now. It was cloth diapers and a rubber protector to keep your mattresses and things clean of any accidents a baby may have. The farmer stopped and turned around and headed back to his farmhouse to phone the police and to alert his wife. His wife immediately gets into the car to go pick up her own daughters from Girl Scout camps, but stops at her sister-in-law's house and alerts her to what was found. The two agree to set out and search the area. The sister-in-law loads up her daughters in one car, and Miss Oler King in the other. The two drove along Old Black Road in separate vehicles, looking for any evidence. One was looking off to one side of the road, the other on the other, so that they could really cover a lot of ground.
That's amazing that they took that initiative, after finding the clothing to go out there and do that. It's just I'm
She
just terrified of where this is going, and I expect it, but I'm terrified all at the same time.
When she was interviewed about it, she just claimed that it was a mother's intuition that she
Mhm.
needed to help. The sister-in-law drove about a half a mile past the farm, and her daughter in the back seat yelled that they had seen Donna's body. She pulls over and walks 15 feet west off of the road into the cornfield. The waist-high cornfield shielded Donna Sue's lifeless body from the sun. Her arms were above her head, and her tiny body was covered in blood, bruises, and her pink pajama top wrapped around her neck. Miss Olerking asked her sister-in-law to take the girls back to the house and call the police while she stayed with Donna Sue. She found an old paper sack and covered the body. Approximately 30 minutes later, police arrived on scene and took the clothing to the Davises for identification. Investigators noted that due to the broken corn stalks, it seemed as though Donna had likely been tossed from a car. After the Davises positively identified the pajamas, Donna Sue's body was taken for autopsy, where they learned she had died from blunt force trauma approximately 10 to 12 hours before. The coroner also listed that Donna Sue had been raped, sodomized, beaten, had her left jaw broken, and had cigarette and cigarette lighter burns on her rear. On Tuesday, there were a few calls about a hitchhiker in the area of a man that matched the description of the perpetrator along Highway 12. Officers were dispatched, but they were unable to find the man fitting the lead. That afternoon, a John Doe warrant was filed giving the authorization to officers throughout the country permission to arrest and hold anyone suspected. 6 agents from the FBI also joined the investigation, in an official capacity this time, through the Lindbergh Act. Donna Sue was laid to rest on Wednesday, July 13th, 1955, and her story made national headlines. J. Edgar Hoover, the founder of the FBI, even learned of her murder and demanded that the perpetrator be found and held responsible. Over the coming weeks, more leads were uncovered and suspects looked into. When alibis checked out on all of the suspects, the town grew uneasy. Security systems were not a thing then, and people relied on guard dogs and weapons to protect their households. A $2,387 reward was raised from public donations and included $500 coming from the state of Iowa. This is the first time this state has ever pledged a reward to a criminal case. $2,387 in 1955 is $26,533 today. In December of 1955, a butcher from nearby Ottawa, Iowa, confessed to raping and killing Donna Sue when he had been arrested for intoxication and disorderly conduct. When FBI agents questioned him again, he recanted his original confession. To verify that his confession was indeed false, they learned that this man had been in Des Moines, Iowa around 7 o'clock the night Donna Sue was taken, and that he could not have possibly made it to Sioux City in time to commit the murder, as Des Moines was approximately 3 hours away. In the following year, another man was questioned and ruled out as a person of interest. In 1957, the reward once offered for Donna Sue's murderer was closed, and all of the donations were returned to the original donors. Donna's case goes cold until 1958, when 8 to 10 other persons were brought in for polygraph tests. Results were never released, and likely they all passed. This was the last known update from Donna Sue's case. This is where it ends. So if you have any information about Donna Sue Davis's murder, please contact the Sioux City Police Department at 712-279-6390 or contact the FBI at 800-225-5324. And I know that's like an abrupt stop, but that's it that came from
First of
Donna's
all
case.
first of all, I have no words. Like, 0. I am you gave the warning, and I was anticipating it the whole time, and then it still sucker punches you when you hear about that happening to a not even two-year-old.
Yeah.
Horrific, horrific.
I almost didn't include it, um, but I felt it was necessary
Mhm,
to it's beyond horrific. It is
mhm.
sadistic, there's not words for what it
It's
is,
just plain evil. Like, whoever I can't. It's
and they got away with it. They've gotten
and
away
they
with it.
Yep,
The
yeah,
perpetrator is likely dead at this point, or they're
yep,
very, very old.
yeah, and I'm sure this is not their only victim. This seems too insane for it to be their only time they've ever done anything like this. Oh,
Exactly.
wow. This is just heartbreaking. But
And
you're right, you had to put that in there because it's the case. It's horrific and it's ugh, and it changed that whole community, I'm sure. Like you said, like,
mhm,
everyone was uneasy after that and suspicious, and this is what
and the
has changed
timeline.
our society.
I mean, the timeline, it's he in 10 minutes, they laid her down for bed, and in 10 minutes, he knew she was gone. So many people saw a suspect.
Mhm,
There was a couple of other reports that came in. One, elderly woman had said that she had heard a car door down the road, which was on that old back road. She had
mhm,
heard a car pull over, stop, and then take off again, whether that's someone that was what was happening is where they were disposing of Donna Sue. Is that what she heard? She did call it in as a lead, um, after. It
mhm.
was she notified them after that this is what she had heard, which helped, it was around 10 o'clock that she called that in, so it narrowed down the timeline a little bit more, but
Yeah. I mean,
man.
even after the fact, those tips help, I mean, because you don't
Oh,
know at the
absolutely.
moment that, "Hey, this is something substantial," until you get other facts, and then you can put it with it. So, yes, if you definitely know anything, I know it was so long ago, but
The main investigator on Donna Sue's case was he worked on it for 15 plus years, before he passed away, and it was one that really shook up it was the one that everyone talked about nonstop, that everyone was always looking out for, and when you no longer have leads, especially that they vetted every single thing they got. They vetted every call that came in, cooperating departments vetted other leads with the going to the motel and with, checking out all those other locations. There was full on cooperation.
mhm,
And I think something that happens like this today, if we had had technology then, this perpetrator wouldn't have gotten away with it.
completely agree. It's yeah, sickening what happened to her. We want to share a few ways you can support us to continue our mission. You can become a Patreon subscriber, or a simple rate and review on your favorite podcast platform helps us get in front of someone who may know something.
We will continue traveling state by state seeking justice because we will be there no matter where.